Well, welcome back to another episode of Buffalo Happy Hour. Mike, what's going on?
Derek, we were with our friend Rob at RK Motorsports, and I'm fairly excited because we have been out of this realm for about a minute, so I'm excited to get back into it.
Yep. For all of our listeners, if they do know, Mike and I used to have motorcycles, and we have the man, the myth, the legend here with us right now. Rob, how are you?
I'm good, doing great.
Yeah?
It's Saturday, it's nice.
Have you rode a lot this summer?
Not as much as I wish. I've been working on bikes more than riding, unfortunately, but I'm gonna try and hopefully get that little stretch at the end of the summer and get out and get a little bit more riding done.
I feel like it's been tough because the summer has either been rainy or 1,000 degrees.
Yeah, definitely. And plus with the whole COVID thing, it's I mean, there's not as much people that can get out and go do stuff together, so it's kind of thrown a wrench in the mix too.
Yeah. I like that pun. That's a nice pun.
Yeah, right?
Throw a wrench into the mix.
Yeah, so for the service aspect, what type of service do you do for anybody and everybody?
Mostly, I'm trying to wean myself back from doing service on other people's bikes right now, just because I have so many of my personal projects that I'm trying to focus more on those to get those done. It's mostly just basic maintenance for motorcycles. If somebody needs just their bike gone through at the beginning of the season for a pre-season checkup, I'll go through, check out the bike, just simple stuff here and there. As far as motor work, I don't really dive too much in just because I don't have the experience. I'm not going to pretend to tell somebody, oh yeah, I'll do a motor rebuild for you, and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. So I'm not about to jump into that. I'm pretty straightforward with what my abilities are and what I can do.
Yeah. So speaking of that and just learning as you go, how have you learned to do all this service stuff? Because you didn't go to school for this. What did you go to school for?
I went to school for drafting and design at a community college for 2 years, and that's my current day job, and I just do this on the side. I don't play video games. This is my hobby. I just spend all my time here after I get done with work, and desk job, sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day just takes a toll on you, so you just got to get up and do some stuff after work.
Yeah. So how did you learn how to do all this?
YouTube certified mechanic. I have the badge.
That's amazing.
No, I actually did basically teach myself. My brother and my dad were, when I was growing up, they were more into cars, not so much motorcycles. Yeah. And I got my first bike at the age of 18, I think. It was my senior year of high school. Got my first bike, and never took my bike to the dealership for service. Everything that went wrong with the bike, I would figure out a way to fix it myself.
Sure.
I wasn't about to drop $500 because I barely got any money I just bought this bike, and I don't have money to pay somebody else to fix it. So I'll figure out how to fix it on my own, and do some research online. That's the best tool there is out there. So I mean, there's tons of information on how to do stuff, and videos and tutorials and forums is just the way that I learned.
Sure. Cool. Well, before we go any further, we have some beer in front of us for us to drink.
Nice.
Obviously, we have to always have something in front of us while we do this podcast. So this is a double IPA from Breyer Brothers Brewing. Review will be coming on this beer shortly on our main episodes. But this is a 9% alcohol. So let's start
her open. Nice. I can get down with this.
And then we got some awesome RK coasters, and then Breyer Brothers coasters too.
All right.
Yeah,
cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers. There we go.
Cheers.
Ooh, that's a stiff one.
Oh, that'll wake you up. I like that.
Actually really good.
It is very good. It's kind of thick, isn't it?
Yeah.
For an
two
IPA.
C's.
Yeah, 2 C's.
I agree with that.
You normally like IPAs, right?
I love IPAs. Yeah. I can't drink a regular Bud Light or something. There's just no. It's like water. There's no flavor there.
Yeah. Well, growing up, we talked about this a couple times. We always had Coors in the house, and it was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, when you're
Come
10
on,
years
Mom.
old. Yeah, come on, Mom. Get something good.
Go to Breyer Brothers back 50 years ago.
Seriously,
Right?
when are you going to graduate to real beer?
I know. Come on, Dad. Some real stuff. No, this is good though. I like this. I like the can, the colors. I like blue.
Yeah. So Tom Kavanagh did the design for this too.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So he also did RK Motorsports, which we'll get into in the future. But right now, just based off of the previous thing that we said, you started riding before. When did you start riding?
So actually growing up, I always wanted a four-wheeler or dirt bike. My friends, that I grew up with always had four-wheelers, dirt bikes, riding through the trails and stuff. And I'm like, come on, let me, like, Mom, Dad, let me get a dirt bike or something. I want to ride around with them. And we didn't have too much money growing up, so I never really had that opportunity. So once I got a job and once I started getting some money, and I just kind of went balls to the walls with, with buying motorcycles. But my first bike was, like I said, in my senior year of high school. I was actually looking on Craigslist the one day on the computer. My dad walked in. He's like, "Hey, what are you looking at?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just looking at bikes, scrolling through, dreaming of stuff that I could have." He's like, "Oh, well, let's go out and shop for you."
Oh, sick.
I'm like, I'm like, seriously? He's like, "Yeah, let's go out and look," because he had a bike growing up too, so he saw that I really wanted one. So the next day we went out to a couple of the local motorcycle dealerships, shopped around, didn't really find anything. And then he was actually looking on Craigslist, found one, and then the next day we went and picked it up. So That was kind of cool.
What was it?
It was a 2007 Kawasaki ZZR 600.
Ooh.
Love that bike.
Old school.
Dude, awesome.
Nice. They don't even make them anymore, right?
No, so that one's actually the same body style as the early 2000s Ninja 600s, the ZX6Rs. And that was such a reliable bike. I bought it with like 16,000 miles, rode the hell out of it, sold it, I think 2 years later with like 36,000 miles, and I think it's still floating around somewhere. I can go pick it up if I want to. I know where it is.
Do you really? So you sold it to somebody?
Yeah, the person I sold it to, I think only put like 600 miles on it.
Really?
Since, and it's been like 3-4 years. So,
jeez.
Yeah, it's just been chill. I'm pretty sure I know where it is, and I kind of want to go buy it.
You might as well, right?
Yeah,
just
to like tuck it away in the corner.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That's
awesome.
sick. So when did you, now with your like wanting to get into the motorcycle culture, you also created a group for people to then reach out to other riders. Can you talk about the formation of 716 Street Bikers?
716 Street Bikers. So that kind of just happened because I was bored of riding around and kind of wanted to meet new people. When I got my first bike, really the only people I rode with was my buddy and his dad, because they were the only people that really had bikes that I could ride around with. I rode around with them, for the summer, and it was cool, but I just wanted to kind of reach out and meet other people that rode. So hopped on Facebook, created a Facebook page first called 716 Street Bikers, and I was basically in control of that. And I would reach out to people and try and have them join the page to like it, and I would post of like meetup spots, and then people would meet up, and then we'd ride from there. And then I eventually converted that to the Facebook group where anybody can comment, post, and look for people that are riding stuff for sale. Just the whole community of like Buffalo for the street bikes, and that's kind of blown up since then. But yeah, when I first started the page, I would post like, "Hey, meetup spot at the Eastern Hills Mall at 10 o'clock on a Saturday." I'm all excited to go out there, and I'm at the parking lot, waiting in front of J.C. Penney. And I'm sitting there for a half hour, and nobody shows up. That happened a couple times.
Really?
I'm like, man, this sucks. I actually was sitting there in the parking lot the one time, and my ears perked up because I heard like the sound of sport bikes. Anybody that rides knows the sound immediately.
Absolutely.
And I perked up, and I saw these two bikes coming around the corner. I'm like, yes, somebody's here to ride. And they just rode right by me. I'm like waving them down. I'm like, guys, I'm right here. And they went right by me. I'm like, oh man. So I actually went and chased them down. I'm like, hey, you guys here for the ride? They're like, no, we're just here to pick up some clothes. I'm like, oh man, just totally shot me down. Yeah. But I mean, it's grown to where we've had 50 to 100 people on rides, and it's more of, how do I say it? It's been more time consuming for me lately, just because I haven't been able to set up as many rides, just because it takes so much. People don't realize how much time it takes to, plan a route. If the weather's permitting, if there's a rain day, you got to set it to a different day. You have like 100 people relying on you for a ride.
Absolutely.
And me setting it up, I'm always in the front because I know where we're going, and I have to worry about 50 to 100 people behind me. If anybody gets broken up at a red light, if somebody breaks down, if somebody crashes, there's just a lot that weighs on one person, and that's kind of why I've been weaning back a little bit from the rides. But there's a lot. I mean, anybody else can set up a ride and go out and have a group of people ride around with the group, which people should do more of.
Yeah, so like you have ad hoc rides that you just schedule for a random Saturday, but you also have scheduled rides like a Halloween ride, and don't you do a Memorial Day ride too?
Yeah, so that's really the main two that I've been doing lately is the beginning of the season, the Memorial Day ride, and then towards the end of the season is like the Halloween ride. usually we've been having like about 50 people the last couple of years, dress up in costumes, just ride around the city, mobbing around and stuff. We got giraffe, a big duck or something, this guy in a pink tutu with a blonde wig, and
that's awesome.
It's just fun. You get the looks that people give you when you're riding down the road is well worth it. So plus you're getting out for the last time, and that's good.
Have there been people that crashed on one of those rides?
Not so much on the rides that I have scheduled, but some of the rides that I have been on where other people on the group set up. This one is probably my most favorite, the most ironic one. It was, I think it was March or May, whatever month is Motorcycle Awareness Month. We actually had the news out. We met at the Boulevard Mall, and for a motorcycle awareness ride, there was probably about 50 people. Somebody else had set it up. I was actually interviewed on the news with a tank top.
Nice.
No sleeves. But, so we all met up at the mall for this motorcycle awareness ride, and I think 4 people crashed on that ride.
Really?
Yeah. Somebody was doing a wheelie, came down wrong. He had his girl on the back, ended up coming down, took out another person. Jeez. I didn't organize that one, though. Actually, I was more towards the front of the ride. I wasn't leading it, but I was more towards the front. We had a bunch of people when we left. By the time we got back, there was only like 10 of us. I'm like, oh, where'd everybody else go? And it started raining, so I figured everybody dipped out because it was raining. But no, they went down, and nobody got seriously hurt. But I mean, some people had to go to the hospital. But yeah, it was not a good look for a motorcycle awareness ride for sure.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So you said the first couple meetups, no one showed up. How did that change, and what actually drove the culture change to where people were like, well, this is like a Bills game, so we have to go because it's actually going to happen,
right? So after the first few times where nobody showed up, I was basically hunting on Facebook. That's probably not a good term, but
I got candy.
Yeah, come on, get over here. No, so I mean, people that are really into motorcycles usually have a motorcycle in their Facebook picture, them riding, doing a wheelie, what have you. So I would see, people, friend suggestions, people that are on their bikes. So I'd be like, add friend. Of course, they add me. So I'm like, hey, you want to check out this page, for people in the area that ride? They're like, oh, yeah. So let me check it out. And then they're like, oh, this is kind of cool. Let me add a few friends. So then those people add some people, and then those people add other people, and it just kind of just networked out. And there's, I think, 5,000 or 6,000 people on the group now, and it's kind of just hovering around. I try and kind of police it a little bit, try and keep the nonsense out, and which has been doing good because a lot of the other pages, like in Rochester, there's a page. I'm not trying to bash them or anything, but I've seen stuff where it's kind of strays away from the motorcycles, but I'm trying to keep my group, mostly focused on that. So that's what people come to the page for is the bikes.
Yeah. I remember I was riding one day when I first got my bike. I had, I don't know if you remember, the green Ninja 650.
Oh, yeah.
It was a piece of work.
Yeah.
But I was riding down Transit Road, and I ran into 2 bikers.
Yeah.
And they flagged me up to the stoplight that they were at. So I went up there, and it was Tony and Chris.
Oh, nice.
And they're like...
No free shout-outs.
Yeah, no free shout-outs. I haven't talked to them in years. But anyway, so they're like, we're going to Quaker Steak and Lube for a downtown loop. You want to come? I'm like, I don't know what any of this means, so yeah, sure. This is my first time riding, and it ended up being one of the 716 Street Bikers meetups that they were doing the downtown loop. So
nice.
it was sweet, and that's just how you get people involved in this is just word of mouth and networking and getting people into this community where they appreciate it. Because like you said, you do a good job keeping the nonsense out, which I think is what drives even more people to the page, because they know that on a ride there won't be people doing 100 miles an hour wheeling and being reckless, because that's not something that you want.
Right.
When I was riding and when you were riding too, we weren't the ones to go out and wheelie, and we didn't want to participate in a group ride where we thought that would be a concern, which is something that you've done a great job on to keep that off of the page and not really get people doing stuff outside of just riding and hanging out.
Which, to be fair, we also didn't know how to wheelie.
True.
And
I wasn't going to try because I would die.
Also, all wheelies were performed on closed courses with supervised professionals.
Yes,
yeah, throw that disclaimer
Always
out there.
going 55. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah.
No, but, a lot of the times for, the rides that I would set up, too, I mean, you've got people from all different skill sets. You've got, people that have gone to track days that have been on bikes for, 20 years. And you've also got somebody that just bought their first clapped out bike that, is barely holding together and they don't know how to ride and their tires are bald. So you've got all these different skill sets. So you have to just maintain it down into one constant speed, one setting for everybody to be safe in. And there was another ride that somebody set up. They were more known for like going to the tracks and, ripping the back roads and stuff. And they set up a ride early on in the beginning of the season. There's probably about 30, 40 people, and even I was uncomfortable on the ride just because we were going down like Tonawanda Creek Road, real twisty and curvy, and we were probably doing like touching around 100. And there's, you got 30 people that you've never ridden with before, and on that ride there was, I think, 3 people went down. So actually, Keon.
Oh, really?
He went into the ditch.
That's one of the ones.
Yeah. He was actually right behind me when that happened. It was going down a hill around a curve, and there was a little bump in the road too. I went down there, hit the curve, and I came out, and I knew there was somebody behind me. I looked in my rearview mirror, like waiting for him to come around so I can like see him following behind me, and I saw this cloud of dust, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. I'm like, where did he go? So I looped around, I looked back, and here he is in the ditch with the bike upside down. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, people say that he's Superman, that one.
Yeah. He got lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, we had like 4 people pulling the bike out of the ditch, and it was covered in mud, upside down, and that was another fun ride.
Yeah. So speaking of wrecked bikes, I mean, this is something that now you specialize in with your YouTube channel.
Right.
Do you want to give the plug to the YouTube channel and also talk about what got you into doing this now for content, basically?
Right. So I also have a YouTube channel, RK Motorsports, shameless plug right here, and we got the bikes in the back. And so I've been rebuilding bikes for probably about 4 years. Basically, I just started, picking up bikes that people would lay down, not too much damage, mostly cosmetic stuff that they don't necessarily want to fix on their own. 9 times out of 10, they don't have the insurance that covers it, and they don't have the money to fix it up, so they just cut their losses and want to sell the bike. That's where I come in. I'll buy the bike from them, fix it up, and resell it in the spring and make a little bit of money in the process. I was doing that I actually bought my first bike from Jasmine when Jasmine and John crashed coming to my house.
That was the first time?
That was the first wrecked bike that I bought was Jasmine's, and it was wrecked about a half mile from my house.
Yeah.
So that was my first bike that I bought, rebuilt on my own. Kind of personalized it to my own liking. Spent a little bit more money on it just because I wanted it to look the way that I wanted. It was a camouflage look, had some teal powder coating, and I ended up selling that. And I made a decent amount of money in the process. So I'm like, hey, I mean, there's some money to be made here. And so I've rebuilt quite a few bikes since then, and then just recently I started to kind of film the process, but just because I've seen other channels that kind of do the same thing, and I'm like watching them, and I'm like they're not doing that right. Like they're skipping out on this, that. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? I'm like, I can do this better. So I just popped the camera up, just started out with my phone, and recorded the process, and a couple of those videos went somewhat viral, just in the last this last fall, winter. And I've just kind of been going at it ever since.
That's awesome. So you and I went one time to go pick up a bike down in Cuba. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
That was a fun time.
Yeah, it was like Amish rolling down in buggies down the street. You're like, where the hell are we?
That was a mess because as we were coming back, the roads were so bumpy.
Yeah, and I had a trailer at the time, and that thing was bouncing around. Oh, yeah. I had like 10 ratchet straps holding this bike down. I did not want it falling off.
We actually went down a similar road, so that was where we popped the tire.
Sweet.
So that road. We just went to an interview down in Naples, Florida, which is kind of going through, not to Cuba, but on that route. And I popped the tire down there, and I'm like, this is exactly where we thought the bike was going to fall off.
I saw that photo of you, just like an open field, and you're like, what the hell do we do now?
It was so aggravating. But So from going out and buying wrecked bikes, what is one of the most memorable stories that you have around someone telling you how they wrecked this bike?
So this one actually wasn't necessarily wrecked, but it's definitely a story to tell. So a lot of the times I'll have people, I don't even reach out to, actively looking for bikes that need to be fixed up. I'll have a lot of the time people will reach out to me and they're like, hey, I got this bike. Would you be interested in selling? Or buying the bike because I know you pick up some bikes like this. I'm like, yeah, like let me know what you got. So this guy reached out to me. He's like, I got a 2006 Yamaha R6. I'm like, all right, cool, decent looking bike. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, what's the story on it? He's like, well, it's got some bullet holes in it. I'm like, I gotta hear this one.
Yeah.
So
definitely need some details.
Yeah. So I'm like, dude, how did this happen? He's like, I can tell you like what the damage is to the bike, and I'll tell you the story when you come pick it up. I'm like, okay. So he's like, there's a bullet hole through the tank, bullet hole through the ECU, which is the computer for the bike, through the windscreen, the brake fluid reservoir. So there's like at least 3 or 4 shots into this motorcycle. So I'm like, do I really want to go pick up a bike that this dude got like shot at? I'm like, yeah, I do. So
yeah.
So I actually, he said it was in Buffalo, and I'm like, all right, bike got shot at in Buffalo. It's kind of sketchy. So I had my dad tagged along. I'm like, hey, can you come out with me? And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I actually pull up. It's a decent neighborhood. I'm like, oh, this isn't bad at all. So I pull up. I'm like, hey, what's going on, dude? Super nice guy. I'm like, so what's the story on this thing? He's like, well, I was dating this girl. I'm like, oh, here we go. This is how it starts. Yeah. He's like, I was dating this girl, and apparently her ex-boyfriend didn't think too highly of him dating his ex-girlfriend. So he's like, yeah, I had the bike parked outside my house one night, and the dude, like, he just, like, came to my house, kicked the bike over, like, shot it up, and then just left.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So
effective.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I didn't know until like the next day. Like I came out and like my bike was tipped over and I see these bullet holes and like it shot through the gas tank, so all the gas leaked out. Thankfully, it didn't blow up.
Right.
And he's like, yeah. He's like, and I didn't have insurance on it. I'm like, oh, well, that's where I come in.
Yeah, really.
I'm like, let me get this thing. So when I got that bike, my main thing to look for was that like the bullet didn't hit the frame, because if there was a hole through the frame, then that bike's pretty much just for parts. Yeah, literally shot. But
yes, the second best pun.
Right, there we go. That's two. Tally it up. So I was just checking over the bike. There was no holes in the frame, no shots in the motor. So motor and frame was good. That's 90% of what I'm looking for. The ECU had a bullet hole through it, and that wasn't good. So I had to replace that, and the tank had the bullet holes in it too. I think there was 2 holes in that one. And when I bought the bike and brought it back here, I took the tank off and I shook it around, and there was a little rattle.
No way.
There was a bullet still in the tank. And,
what do you use?
And I have the bullet with me.
Do you really?
Yes.
Props. I love it.
The bullet is here.
That is sick.
Grab this bad boy. That is what I took out of the tank.
All right, so there's fragment. Dude, this is like a Civil War reincarnation.
Right? I've had that thing chilling up on my little wall of fame.
We gotta take a photo of this.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome clickbait.
Shots fired on the podcast.
I don't know. So I don't know if there's like, is this evidence? Like, is
I hope
somebody
not. My fingerprints, your fingerprints are on it now.
I'm not touching it.
Yeah, don't touch it, Derek.
Yeah, we'll save you, Derek.
That's awesome.
Me and Rob will go down.
Right? I'll take the blame. Yeah, so that was, as soon as I like heard the little rattle, I'm like, dude, there's no way this bullet is like still in here. And I pulled it out, and that's what came out. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to keep this.
So do you just replace then the parts that are damaged, or what is the extent of your inspection on this?
So for that one, it had the holes in the tank from the bullet holes. That one, I actually reached out to a buddy of mine that's a welder. He was able to weld up the holes, kind of patch it up, because the tank was in fairly decent shape. So he just kind of patched everything up. I did a little body work and had another friend of mine paint it. So that took care of the tank, which was 90% of the damage. And then the other stuff like the windscreen. Actually, if you looked at the bike from like standing in front of it, you could see like the line of sight of like where the windscreen was, where the hole in there was, where the brake fluid reservoir was, that the bullet went through there, and then you could see right where it went into the tank.
You're just CSI Buffalo having strings.
You got like the string stretched out, get the crime scene tape and
lasers
stuff.
all over the place.
Right. Bum bum.
That's it.
Wait, that's Law and Order. Never mind. Same. Whatever. But so repaired the tank, got a new ECU, And those two things alone were basically enough to get the bike back up and running.
Yeah.
And from there, it was just, get some new plastics for it and get it ready to sell. And I mean, that's pretty much, there really wasn't much to it. I mean, if somebody else was to buy a bike that, was shot up with, bullet holes in it and stuff, they'd probably be like, oh my God. But I mean, you just got to look into it a little bit more, see what the extent of the damage is, which it really wasn't too bad. And it really didn't take too much to get that bike up and running.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
Yeah, so that's my most interesting. Hopefully it doesn't get much more interesting than that.
Yeah, I hope not.
Grenade in the tank or something.
Are people reluctant to tell you the story behind it sometimes because they just feel embarrassed, or do you normally get a story out of everything?
I think sometimes people aren't maybe 100% truthful, but I mean, I want to know what happened to the bike because I want to know what's wrong with it. And when I sell the bikes, I'll tell people exactly what I know happened to it, what was wrong with it, because transparency is key. And as soon as people hear that, oh my God, that bike was wrecked, they think,
has
it was
bullets in it.
Yeah, like they think it was like split in half, on fire or something. And I mean, these bikes are pretty resilient. They can take a lot of beating without, showing too much signs of damage. And just letting people know what happened to the bike is key. And I usually ask for, the story behind the bike. Usually it's, somebody's newer rider and, they took a corner too fast, laid it down, and then now, the side plastics are scuffed up and, that's not too crazy, but like a bullet hole in the tank, like, yeah, I got to know that story.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like, just from your experience, do you feel like insurance for bikes is, obviously it's required, but is it like not effective? Because most people buy these bikes, and if they crash, they're never going to get their money back from insurance.
It's hit or miss, because I've never personally wrecked a bike. I've tipped my bike over once. I've never actually like gone down, but I mean, insurance is, at least for me, because I've never really had any like accidents on my record. I mean, it's going to vary for different people, newer riders, but I mean, between like liability and like full coverage for bikes, in my opinion, full coverage really isn't that bad. You can, I mean, it's insurance for your vehicle. Obviously, if you have like a bike that you bought for $2,000, I mean, you might not want full coverage because it might not be the payments every month that you're going to want to fork out for that. But if you have like a brand new Ducati that's, a hefty amount of money, and I mean, insurance is there for a reason. But I mean, a lot of people will just go through insurance and, get the check and run, but some people don't even take it and just want to cut their losses and sell the bike.
I think a lot of it too is most people will do full coverage during the season, and then they'll raise deductibles and everything else and just basically eliminate their insurance payment during the off season, which in Buffalo's a decent chunk of the year.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is when the bike is essentially in storage because it's winter, is just protecting it from water in case the roof collapses or anything crazy.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, for the most part, a decent bike is what, 15 grand new, know? So it's, I mean, why not? You might as well just get the full coverage and call it a day.
Yeah.
So speaking of Ducatis and nice bikes, you had a BMW S1000, right?
I still have it.
You still have it? Yeah.
Is it here?
It's not here. No, it's not here. It's in my house.
Yeah, it's his personal bike.
All of my personal bikes aren't even here right now.
All of them? You have more than one now?
I have the BMW S1000RR. That one I bought maybe like 3 or 4 years ago from Rochester. That one had a blown motor. So that one wasn't wrecked, but it had motor damage.
Yeah.
So I bought that bike, had it sitting around in my garage for like a year and a half. Didn't even touch it. I just had like this, $10,000 motorcycle just chilling, just collecting dust. So then, like last winter, I decided to buy a motor for it, swapped it out, and then I rode that for a whole season. So that's at my house. I've got 2004 Suzuki GSXR 600 that I picked up earlier this season, and that one actually has a 2006 Gixxer 1000 motor swapped into it.
Oh, nice.
So it's a sleeper,
Wow.
but it's still Gixxer 600 coverage.
Nice.
So my insurance
there
is
you go.
cheap
There you go.
versus like having 1,000. So, and that thing's quick. That thing's super quick. And I also have a 2017 Yamaha WR250 dual sport, and I've got supermoto tires on it right now, so I can take that off-road if I want to and kind of hoon around, get a little crazy on that, and do some wheelies and stuff.
So coming from the man himself, between Gixxer, Honda, Kawasaki, and Yamaha, what's the bike of choice?
I knew this was gonna happen.
Oh, it has
I knew it was gonna happen. So top 4 in my preference has got to be Honda, Kawasaki. Actually, just my top 2 is Honda and Kawasaki. Yamaha, and I'll put Yamaha 3rd, Suzuki 4th. It's funny because Suzuki's 4th, but I'm currently riding a Suzuki GSXR, which doesn't make any sense. But I like Honda because of the reliability, Kawasaki for the looks, and the other 2 I don't know.
You could take or leave.
Yeah. But I got to say, Yamaha has come out with some pretty decent bikes within the last few years. They've had good stuff, but I feel like there's a lot of electrical twerks.
It's over there twerking.
There's electrical, like, little finicky things with
quirks.
those. Yeah, quirks. There we go.
There
we go.
Right
I knew I was going to mess something up. Twerks.
He sounds like me.
What am I talking about?
He said shittering the other day on the podcast. Still have no idea what that means.
Yeah, it's fine. I just combine words. We just call them Mikeisms.
Look up on Urban Dictionary. You never know.
Yeah, it's probably a full thing. So I had a CBR 600RR.
Okay.
And the only issue that I ever had with that bike was I needed more gas. Like, there's literally, that thing was pristine at all times.
You had a steal on that too.
Yeah, like it was I bought it from one of my good buddies that I served with. He brought it home from Alaska when he moved, when he PCS'd, and then he sold it to me for like nothing.
Yeah.
And he gave me 2 jackets, 2 helmets, male and female.
Right.
He's like, whatever you need, just like have at it. I'm like, thanks,
Nice.
man. And loved that bike.
That's awesome.
And then, of course, we became adults, and I made the stupid decision of selling the bike and then using the money into getting the house.
Right.
Well, now we know where to buy one if we need one.
Hey,
Seriously, there's
I know
that.
a guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am the guy.
Hey, it's me.
Another shameless plug.
Yeah, it's just depressing because every season, you and I will literally sit here. We'll be like having a fire at your house, and then we'll just hear him rip on the 90, and we'll just stare at each other. We're like, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yep.
We drink whiskey now. It's fine.
So when did because obviously we're sitting in your shop right now.
Yep.
So when was that transition from I'm going to move from the house to doing this to now in my own shop?
So I'd say probably about, actually I've had this place for about 3 years. So I'd say 4 years ago, I probably had 5 or 6 motorcycles in my parents' garage, and it was a very small garage. It was maybe like a 20 by 20, and I had like 5 or 6 bikes in here.
Wow.
And I'm like, something's got to change. I'm like, I need room. So I was looking for a while for just, again, Craigslist. And I was looking around just
Hunting
for like
on Facebook again.
different properties and stuff. And I'm like, see. Jesus. So I was looking for like just different properties and stuff, and I came across this place, and I actually came across it. I think it was either the day or the day after that it was posted for sale.
Oh wow!
And I had just gotten back from a cruise, and it was like right around my birthday, and I am trying to look for properties. I have like no money. I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
But that cruise was amazing.
I know, the cruise. Carnival Cruise Lines, shameless plug. Great. Get the
#not a sponsor.
Get the drink package, not a sponsor.
Yes.
All right. So anyways, I come back from the cruise. I have like zero money, and I'm looking for like property. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Find this place on Craigslist, and I talk to my mom and dad. I'm like, hey, like, what do you think about this place? They're like, let's go check it out. I'm like, wow, I did not expect that to be your answer, because the pictures of this place was terrible. Roof was collapsed. There was weeds all over. Windows were broken. Stuff was boarded up.
Just saying, your parents are ridiculously supportive.
Oh,
just
hell
throwing
yeah.
that out there.
Hell yeah. Well, actually, our house used to be an old barn.
Nice.
So they kind of know, they can see
potential,
the future and what something can be.
Yeah.
So they're like, hell yeah, let's go check it out. So the next day we came out here. We met with the realtor. They took a walk through here. There was actually 3 old cars in here. The room right over there that used to be the old office, because this place used to be an old gas station.
Oh, okay.
It was built in 1964. Had this addition behind us was built in 74, and then I think up until maybe like the early 2000s is kind of when it just kind of closed, and it's basically just been sitting for like 15 years, and everything just started to wither away. The roof started falling in. It had a flat roof, so water was collecting and just kind of falling in. And it was starting to get to the point of disrepair. If it was like another couple years, this place probably would have been toast.
Sure.
So I mean, it was 2017 when I actually signed the paperwork for this place, and ever since then, I've basically just been dumping money into it, time, labor, just to renovate this and get it so the way that it looks right now. And so then, you know, moving from my parents' garage to this place, which is I think around 21,000 square feet, I have plenty of room for bikes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And bikes don't take up much room. If it was like cars, if like cars were my thing,
Yeah.
I could have like 3 or 4 cars here. I could probably fit like 50 bikes in this place.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, just it happened at the right time, and I mean, things happen for a reason.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I kind of scooped this right in the right time. And there was other people that had wanted to buy this place for a while. They had reached out to the owner, and he's like, I don't want to sell it just yet. And I just kind of stepped in at the right time, and things worked out.
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
So what are the next steps for this space and for Arcade Motorsports?
So right now I'm currently in the process of basically turning this into a full-time business. Right now it's basically just kind of a side job, hobby type deal for me. Just
Side
'cause-
hustle.
Right, exactly. Because you know I don't play video games. I come here, wrench on the bikes. That's kind of my hobby that I do. It kind of keeps me calm. You know, just get in the zone, do some stuff, and I'm just kind of slowly starting to transition that into a business that I can run on the side. I still have my full-time day job. I'm just kind of trying to work on this, you know, after hours, like in the evening, on the weekends. You know, I can, you know, do some work on people's bikes, maybe sell a bike or two here or there. So that's just a slow transition that I'm trying to work towards.
Are you ever thinking about getting a dealer's license or anything?
A dealer's license is actually the next step because a lot of the auctions where you can buy either, you know, used bikes or salvage motorcycles, you need to have a vehicle dealer license.
Sure.
And that's my next step because right now I'm buying privately through, you know, private owners.
Yeah.
And there's only so much of that can happen. There's only so many bikes that I can find through that route, where if I have my dealer's license, I'll have a lot broader range of, you know, bikes to choose from, you know, all over the U.S. that I could have shipped here. So that's my next goal, is to get the dealer's license so I can kind of take that next step towards, you know, becoming a more functional motorcycle dealership.
So in the next steps, is there a jet ski or something in the future? You got to talk about that, man. You
There
posted a
might
picture.
be. So there was a picture floating around of,
Don't know where it came from.
I don't know, Facebook. I should stay off of Facebook. I get too many terrible / great ideas from there.
Absolutely.
So I've seen a couple people do this where they take the hull of a jet ski and basically slap a scooter in there and then ride it around town. And
Oh,
it
sweet.
just looks like you're just riding a jet ski around town, but it's really a scooter underneath. So I'll see if it happens.
Yeah.
I have the jet ski. I just got to find a scooter, and then I don't know. We'll see if that happens. I mean, if it does, I'll definitely have a video of it. Definitely have a video of me in a flamingo shirt
That's
riding around
sick.
town
Yes.
with some aviators.
The next Halloween ride. That's what you're doing.
Oh, there we go. I
There
didn't
you
think
go.
about that one. That'd
be
be
sick.
good. I actually thought about just doing it like in the middle of the winter, just for the hell of it.
There you go. That'd be funny.
What the hell's that guy doing? Just like short
in your
shorts,
cutoffs?
short shorts cut off. I got like a long wig or something. Just get ridiculous
Yeah.
with it.
So I posted in the 716 Street Bikers group 2 to ask questions. None of them were viable questions, but I have to ask you some of them.
Oh God.
So we're going to leave the inappropriate ones out, but Rob, is the DMV open right now?
I think so.
Okay, perfect. And also, who do you go for tires around here? Because I cannot find anybody.
You cannot find. Well, let me tell you about this guy that I know for tires. His name is Bihan Tui, we'll say. Nobody knows how to say his last name. He's a very mythical man. But he is the guy. Shameless plug number 4 for Bihan Tui.
I'm trying to look at.
Tires.
There's a lot of inappropriate comments on here
Yes,
that
there
we're
is.
not doing.
Yeah, this is a
So,
family-friendly show.
family-friendly podcast.
Even though it
and,
involves bullets and...
yep, I appreciate everybody's input, but we're not doing it.
Yeah.
So
Nope.
Off camera, though, I may ask.
Oh,
just-
yeah.
Just
Except
because
for
we're
some of
asking
them.
a friend. Yeah.
somebody commented, "Awesome! This dude knows his shit from following his YouTube. Very knowledgeable." So that's very nice. I did not expect
Wait,
that type
somebody
of comment
said
on
that
it.
about
you.
following my videos?
Yeah.
Or me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
following your
nice.
videos.
I didn't even see
Tyler
that.
Delellis.
Who?
No idea who that is. Tyler
Not a
Delellis.
sponsor, no free shout outs.
Yeah, no
Yep,
free
no,
shout outs.
no.
But I
not a
currently
shameless
do not
plug.
have status or service either because we're in the middle of nowhere. So
Yeah, there's terrible service in here. I barely have like 3G at all.
But those were some of the comments. So thank you for shedding some light on when the
Nice,
DMV is
nice.
open and who to go for tires.
DMV is open,
Really
at least
appreciate
in
it.
New York State, Niagara County.
What does KSU mean? When
Ooh,
people
Actually, you threw me for a loop there. I had to think about that for a second. KSU. So K stands for kickstands. Well, KS stands for kickstands. U stands for up. So if we ever have a meetup and it says, meet up at the mall at 10 o'clock, KSU at 10:30, that means kickstands up at 10:30. We're heading out of there. So the ride starts then. If you're 2 minutes late, try and catch up.
you got to find us.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on people that ask the question, anybody out on 2?
Anybody out on 2? Usually there's always somebody out on 2. Whether you know that person or not.
I
Love
So-
that response.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the saying?
I feel like you should use your English.
I also think it's one of the worst phrases to exist in
Hello,
English
is there anybody else that wants to go for a ride today?
Yes.
I would like to ride around possibly Buffalo.
Yeah, question
New
mark?
segment, grammar class with Rob Kuhn.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Goodness.
Oh my God, I can't stand. I'm the grammar police on Facebook. Can't stand it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I'm still trying to load this. So, how fast can a 600 go?
Ooh, that's a good one.
From Jamie Dombrowski.
Oh, come on, Jamie.
Also, hashtag not a sponsor, no for shout outs.
Okay, so your typical 600, not counting mine that has 1,000 motor in it, your typical 600 will top out anywhere from, I'd say, 150 to 160, considering gearing and other factors. From the factory, it's going to be right around that range.
I like it.
Also, from Hank Ha. How tall are you?
Oh God, I think
7'4".
Yes. I'm pretty sure it's like 74 inches, somewhere around there. If you want to do the math on that.
That's awesome. You are ridiculously tall.
No,
How did
I
you
think like
first get
6'4".
into YouTube and into the bike scene? We've already talked about that, so
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, come on. Catch up, guys.
Yeah, watch the interview.
Jesus. Yeah,
Jeez,
seriously. Well, honestly, thank you, Rob, so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Plug your Instagram, your Facebook, and your YouTube as well, and also your Patreon because you have a
Patreon. Yeah, I do have a Patreon also. So
Us too.
So
Yeah,
YouTube.
nailed it.
Yeah, there you go. So YouTube is RK Motorsports. Instagram is RK Motorsports 716. I don't even know. I barely even go on Instagram. Not gonna lie. Just search RK Motorsports and you'll find it. Same with Facebook. I barely post to there. There's a odd stream of water coming from over here. I don't know where that's coming from.
The cooler.
Probably the cooler,
I didn't know
yeah.
if it was raining
the
or your
cooler's
battery
melting.
was leaking.
No, it's
But yeah, RK Motorsports, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon. Got some supporters on Patreon too, so that's kind of cool. They're helping support some of the stuff, designing some bikes with me, so that's kind of cool. It's a good platform.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Rob. We really appreciate it. Everybody go check him out on social media. Go subscribe to him on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And we'll see you next interview. Thank you very much, Rob.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Man. Congrats on everything thus far.
Thank you.
Absolutely.